How are y'all doing today, my friends? I just got done watching this Chris Chan video that we're about to watch again right now, and let me just tell you something. Something about Chris just seems off in this video. I mean, most of the times you can't really tell what you're gonna get when you click on a Chris video, but he just seems so, depressed or maybe just exhausted in this one. I can't even really sum it up. He also has, this 1,000-mile stare in his eyes that at some points gets really crazy. As he does in every video, Chris touches on just about every topic that's important to him at the current moment. The convention that he went to with Flutter, which I was shocked that he brought up, but he barely went into detail with it. He brings up the trolls, he brings up My Little Pony Season 4, he brings up the fact that people that he likes need to stop blocking him on Twitter. Oh, and in case you forgot, he also brings up about 7 times how he's Jesus Christ himself. But before we get into this one today, ladies and gentlemen, I want to ask you a question. When Chris Chan was in jail, if you were following this story around that time, what did you think was going to happen when he got out? I know many people thought he was going to end up homeless. I know myself, I thought some random ween was going to take him in and basically take control over his life, kind of monetize it like a fish tank situation. And, I wasn't far off considering the situation we've now seen ourselves in. But I don't think anyone expected him to have this possible long-distance girlfriend that he's been traveling to anime conventions and all this stuff with. It's been a pretty weird couple of months for Chris, but the end of 2023 definitely didn't shape out like I think a lot of people thought it would have. So, yeah, just let me know in the comments what you guys thought was going to happen. And with all that being said, let's jump right into it. And as I told y'all before, you'll notice from the jump, Chris's demeanor is not like his prepare for lucid, make it stupid demeanor. It's a very toned down Chris Chan.
Greetings, everyone. This is Chris Chan Sanchi Prime here once again, focused and connected with everything. And I will start off with mentioning, of course, the Animate Rally Convention. Flutter and I, we did attend the Friday, and we were going to attend the Saturday. We were intercepted because, like the Romans back in the days of Jerusalem, false witnesses were born against me, and they were talked about and ratted me out to the organizer of the convention, which that in its entity was quite wrong indeed. And as you all note, as I have exemplified during the event, I continued to love and kept my calm. I did try to explain, and yet at the moment, the demons were too great in that event organizer, and I feel sorry for that individual and their accomplices that were with them at the time. And despite the efforts of the minority, we did still have a very good weekend. And I was the one wearing the striped socks. So you mentioned that, and think about that as you will. Outside of all that, all those that dare do and repeat history in the dark ways by following that of the demons and devils, and even Satan himself in the temptations and darkness, and try to thwart me, they all shall be thwarted shortly enough. It is the divine will, along with that of Russia being a modern day Babylon, to fall as Babylon did, and Vladimir Putin dying by his own sword, and everything coming to fruition. For I have risen before, and I have many times risen in this lifetime as well.
Dear God, I mean, he's clearly trying to make it seem like he's going into some type of trance, but I mean, this constant look in Chris's eyes makes you think that he's seeing some shit on the other side of that camera, and he just may well be, because you hear all those, like, scraping noises, or what maybe you would assume would be like a broom sweeping stuff up. Yeah, I hear that too. I don't know what that is on the other side of the camera, but it's not Chris, because as far as I can tell, he's sitting there completely still, so unless his feet are just fidgeting around down there, which is entirely possible, because you remember he said that story before about how he drank so much soda that his leg would shake, and it would shake so loud that it would shake the house. How much soda do you have to drink? I genuinely want to know. Nonetheless, we saw those pictures of Chris's shopping cart at Walmart a few months back. Didn't look like he had any soda in there, and it seems like he tries to drink a lot of water. Just gonna give Chris benefit of the doubt on this one. But yeah, I don't know what those sounds are, but it does get pretty distracting, I'm not gonna lie. Chris seems to be looking at things off camera too the whole time he's saying this, and I mean, it seems like one long, like, convoluted spiel he's going on. I don't think he's written this down or anything. I think he's just going off of his own, going off the dome there. But if he is, and even if he has this written down, it's just such an unhinged, like, series of things to say. He starts out by talking about how him and Flutter went to that convention, and how on Friday it was fine, but on Saturday they were intercepted by the managers, who he even goes on and says had like a demon inside him. So, I mean, of course, Chris looks at this as like some grave offense to these gods and goddesses, you know, like he just broke a cardinal sin by not allowing this god you see on screen to go and have a day inside the anime convention, you know. And to be fair, Chris was probably only banned because of the amount of phone calls they got once people realized Chris was there, or other anime goers saying how weirded out they felt just being around Chris. But regardless, he and Flutter were not allowed back into the convention. And again, Chris turns this into like some biblical thing where he's trying to say, like, you know, this is just how I was betrayed back in the day. He always takes this now to these absolute extremes. Chris has always really like hyped things up that didn't need to be. You know, like him saying that the axe was not meant to be used by the gay population. Like, why was that a thing that mattered? You know, the Sonic's blue arms things, like why? Why did that matter? Because it mattered to Chris. And so does all this like weird Jesus mumbo jumbo. And he's going to continue with it, and he's going to try to use it to justify any like wrong that people commit upon him by saying that they're doing this to a god and they need to watch out for themselves. He's basically threatening them, but he doesn't really have nothing to hold as leverage, so he just says, well, I'm God, so you better do it, or else you're gonna, I guess, get smited or something.
Whether you all know it or not, with all the timeline shifts, the cosmic events, and everything. And y'all would actually know the answer had you actually opened your minds and meditate and actually connected. But not every one of you all didn't. Not every one of y'all did. Which is a shame, really. Because when I was Jesus Christ back in Jerusalem once upon a time, I connected with the Akashic records as well, way back then. But I continued to simplify what I could with what was right, and yet was chronicled of me in prophecy, and then as such within the Holy Bible, and later on in the layer book, which was, it's escaping my consciousness in a moment, but y'all know what I mean.
The other book. He claims to be this all-knowing God, but he always tries to fall back on, you know, some things, you know, I don't know. I mean, it's most of things that Chris doesn't know in these situations. He can't even name what book he's meant to be, like, represented in. I don't know it either, but I'm not out here claiming to be Jesus Christ.
But it still goes in all the connections that all religions are good, except for those that have anything to do with the darkness and Satanism and so forth. The correct religions are those that are good, light-hearted, and righteous, between Christianity, Mormons, Judaism, descend, zodiacal animals, and all that. And all gods and goddesses have existed. They all worked under me, as well as Emmanuel, and worked under that which is above us, of which I am directly connected with, the Alpha and Omega point of all existence, that exists at the beginning and end of this timeline and all timelines.
So in this clip, Chris goes on to say how every religion is right, and then goes on to list all the correct religions, like Christianity, Judaism, Mormons, sociological animals. I don't know what that one was about, but it's definitely something Sonichi related. It absolutely has to be. I pray to God it is. And no, I'm not talking about the God we keep seeing on screen every couple of minutes. I'm talking about the real God up there in the sky. The one that's probably got to be shaking his head at Chris right now, just throwing his name around the mud like that. Chris talks about how all the gods and goddesses are real, and then just goes on to mention that they're all kind of like under him though, which means that Chris is like the head honcho of gods, you know? He's the Don of the Godverse. He's the shot caller. And Chris, all these other gods and goddesses, they answer to him, you know? Poseidon, Chris has got him by a leash.
This timeline being the one prime timeline of which where all other timelines exist so. And I am the one avatar of all existence. So definitely be careful what you wish for. Because what you should be wishing for is that which is good. For if you leave your wishes unwarranted, the drama can continue. Even by that which may have come unto unwarranted in recent days. Of which I do apologize for, but hey, all of us, artists, creators, chroniclers, other dimensional and universe and timeline explorers that we have explored and done innately in our writings, in our drawings, in our music, in all our various media. Welcome to our world and the drama from the midst fandoms, which include the minority that are the worst of the toxic, evilest, darkest sinning individuals. They are going to converge upon you anyway, whether or not I had commented on that, which does not exist in this timeline by Little Pony Generation 5. Make your mark, tell your tale, a new generation movie. There is still time to shelve all that, Hasbro, and get rid of it, because as long as they remain, further developments which are bad for this timeline shall continue. Once G4, Friendship is Magic, and Equestria Girls are fully resumed, and Friendship is Magic continues on to the end of its 14th televised animated season, animated as it was before anything having to do with pony life. Money really corrupted the business people. It has corrupted the arts, and that has been exemplified in the G5 media, which was re-released prematurely, as I have foreknown and foretold, as everyone else have been bared, understood, and observation of. Help in making sure that we are good in this timeline, in this our prime universe, as the dimension merge does complete and the ultimate miracle manifests so.
So Chris goes over like so many things right there in rapid fire order. He starts by bringing up the fact that all these like creators and chroniclers and content creators and artists like him, of course, they're the ones who create the universe and all that. He's basically just trying again to make what he does seem just so godly, even though it's just him drawing his comic books most of the time. But he looks at people who are actual creators like on Twitter and all as these huge like figureheads of something just because it's the people he looks up to. These are just random people who voice ponies in TV shows and maybe even just talk about them on YouTube. Chris looks at these people as his peers because he thinks, well, in his head he's voiced Sonichu his whole life, so he's kind of the same thing as them. After that, he goes into the fact that when people get attacked for things on Twitter, they need to just deal with it, even if Chris was probably the cause of it. And that may confuse you because it's not directly what Chris said, but it's what he meant. Because there was this like other pony creator, and they put up a poll or something on Twitter, and Chris Chan decided to respond to it. And they got upset and said, well, now that Chris responded to it, I can imagine all these responses are going to be garbage. And Chris's response to that is, of course, to say, just ignore it. Ignore the hundreds, maybe even thousands of comments you'll get, all regarded to how much of a sicko I am, because that's the price of allowing me to comment on your stuff. I genuinely understand where Chris is coming from with this. He believes because he's not the one going out of his way to be mean, and that it's all these other people, that people shouldn't cast him aside because of it. However, at this point, people just don't want to deal with anything related to Chris because they know the drama that will come with it. And he thinks still at this point, there's a chance that he can just tell people to stop and ignore all these people like Chris tries to do, so that Chris and them can build a friendship that these people most likely don't even want to have. And then Chris just goes into more Jesus jargon.
It is right. It is good. And I'll also note, there is no reason to block me on social media, because even if you do, you're still going to be attacked by those that follow you, those that follow me, those that follow and troll all those that are famous and creative. Because they try to discourage us among the minority that exists within.
Chris says that whether or not these people block him or not, they're still going to be attacked by all these trolls. Probably because Chris is just saying that he's going to still talk about them, so they better just start dealing with it. He then says that all famous and creative people deal with this, trying to say that that's the reason that he gets trolled. And he's been saying that for years. The reason people mess with him is because they're so jealous of Sonichu and all of Chris's success, when really it was because Chris was a gullible, lolcow on the internet back in the early days, probably the OG of the lolcows, and now people mess with him because of what happened between him and Barbara.
And what we need to do is just let that slide. We need not heed their words. We need not let that affect us deeply. All of you hereby call and understand, for we all coexist together in this drama, in this form of hell, as it were. And it's up to us to beat all the haters and fakers and darkest saying individuals that try to tempt us, that try to thwart us into other veering emotional directions, by just simply ignoring them. And only block them. And it is I that is not meant to be cursed at all. Even when you're in the midst of feeling fatigued and tired and would not want to be involved in the drama, you already were involved in the drama. Directly, indirectly, and so forth. Period. Whether you have been known by me before, presently, or not yet at all. Meditate on that as you will and shall, for it is right and good. And follow that which is light, power, good, and righteous. For when you do that, and live of your own volition, and using common sense, and following the guidance that feels right, and good and light powered. That is very good indeed.
So let me get this straight. Chris is saying that all these people who block him need to stop doing so because the second that Chris messaged them anyway, they were already involved in the drama. Maybe he's saying this, or maybe he's saying something more like godly again, such as like, you're all God's soldiers. The second I got involved in this, so did you. I don't know what he's trying to say here, but what I do know is that he's 100% just being as selfish as possible. Basically saying, well, these are my problems and now they're yours, so because I want to be friends with you, again, you just better go ahead and deal with it. Chris is unbelievable in this video. He just wants what he wants, and he's not gonna take no for an answer. And what he wants is to be friends with all these pony people. It doesn't matter if they don't want to be friends with him. Chris gets the final say, and because he's God, they will now be best friends. Period. I tried to do the Chris hand thing, and I ended up dropping my friggin' phone.
And blocking the one individual, which is I, is not right. Because that is not gonna prevent any of those, be it from my fandom or your fandom, all of you. You know that it is they that make those comments. You want to report and block them. In my name, Jesus Christy Weston Chandler Sachi Pride, or as I am also known as Chris Chan, Christ Chan, Jesus Christ Chan Sachi Pride. I am not to be cursed. My name is not to be used in slander or defamation of any sort. Do this and you will feel a massive wank in your day, as it were.
A wank in your day? What does that mean? I feel like he's got to be just making stuff up now. But I bet you I'll get a bunch of comments from people from some certain part of the world telling me that that is a very known saying. And I won't be surprised when I get those comments. Nonetheless, Chris then again goes into the whole thing about people need to stop blocking him because, even if they do block him, their bullies aren't going to go away. So I guess Chris is trying to say now that, hey, all you people get bullied a lot, and by blocking me, it's not going to stop. No, these people probably do not deal with any of this trolling stuff, and they only have to put up with it when you decide to comment on their stuff. The final thing I need to bring up is something that's been right in front of me this entire video, but I only notice now. Dear God, that medallion is looking more and more crusty by the day. I mean, it's never looked good. It just looks like a moldy medallion. And Chris even said that he made that in jail using mustard packets. So he's walking around with this rotting mustard ball of clay. It's just, I guess it holds all the power to his godlyhood, but I mean, at the same time, maybe make a new one,
But once you have accepted and realized that I am good, like all of you are, that are good, even the neutral good, and those that are neutral bad, or bad, that are redeeming themselves, opening themselves up and their minds to redeem themselves and follow that which is good, light, power, and righteous. But it is those that leave their minds closed and stick with such bad ways and bad mindsets that are so over a decade ago. Well over a decade ago. Decade and a half ago. 2007 called That's Not Me Anymore. Period. So get over yourselves and accept me, for I am good. I am grounded. I am much better now. And I shall not be tempted or swayed by any other dark means whatsoever. And everyone is tested. Fail the test by approaching me with any forming of life where you pretend that you don't recognize me or you see me as someone else and you post that on the internet and such places on the internet, you shall be swift divine retribution in one way or another. Do not put anything online, whether it be a selfie with me in the picture or any picture with I and my friends and family and so forth, without my personal consent. Aside from that, continue on as you will and shall, in that which is good, like power and righteous, and it is rightly so. I bless all of you who watch this video and understand. And if you do not understand, open your mind, open your heart, open yourself. Feel the energy. Purify yourselves if you are dark. Further cleanse yourselves if you are neutral. Keep yourselves good if you feel true, good, clear an aura without any satanic, demon, or demonic influences whatsoever. For it is right and it is good. All of you shall be blessed. Thank you.
And again, there's so much to touch on in this last section here. Chris talks about how he may have been a dark individual in the past, or maybe that wasn't his words. He said he had done dark things or something like that, but that was so long ago. Think 2007, and that makes me think, what did he do in 2007 that was so dark? But I'm pretty sure he's alluding to the barber stuff here without outright saying it, but at the same time, he tries to act like he never did it at all. I mean, you hear him right here saying that, hey, all the good people, I want to be on your side. You know, despite me doing what I did to my mother, getting put in jail for 2 years because of it, my elderly mother, that is, a woman who was like completely defenseless and barely has her own mind to her, you know, I want to be a good person. And because I think all these toxics and bad people, which I myself am a part of, are a bad minority, you know, I want to be on your side, so you just have to accept it. And that was basically the point of this whole video Chris made, was to tell people, hey, this is what I want. I want these people as friends. I want people to think of me in this light, and I'm not going to accept anything otherwise. I deserve this, and people are going to give it to me. Now, what has he done to deserve this? Absolutely nothing. Chris has been on the internet for the past 20 years, acting like the biggest dickhead possible. And over the past few years, we found out that he has a really, really dark side to him that a lot of people presume for years was there, but again, in the last few years, it was proven for you. And Chris he doesn't want to have to face that. He doesn't want to be looked at as a bad person, because he in his own mind feels like he's a good person. He feels like he should be looked at as so. And obviously, if he really does think that in his mind, can you blame him for getting upset that people don't see him as that? Not really, but it's the fact that he just wants to sweep under the rug all the sinister things he did and act like it's not a big deal and that he's still a good person over it and people should just forgive and forget is such a bad precedent to set for him. Because you watch, if a bunch of people just accept Chris and say, no, Chris, you are a good person, what's in the past is in the past, he's gonna think he can do stuff like that again and get away with it. He then goes on to complain about people taking selfies with him or taking pictures of him in public and posting them without his permission. This has been something that's been running absolutely rampant ever since he got out of jail. I can't tell you how many cryptid-esque pictures we've had of Chris just pop up of him in the wild, most of the time with Flutter, and I think that's where he really cares about this. When it's just pictures of him, he usually doesn't mind, but the fact that there's so many pictures of him in Flutter probably pisses him off a little bit. But there was even this selfie of him and a girl at the convention that he took, and I had seen it been floating around for a while. I don't know if that's what he's talking about here, because with Chris, a lot of people have been talking about recently how him and Flutter have been very standoffish about pictures being taken of them, and this is presumably because of all them being leaked online, but eventually I guess people tell Chris, hey, I won't post this online, this is just for me, and then of course, they go and post it online, and you see Chris here really upset about that, and wanting people to stop. And again, that was another running theme of this video. Chris acting like he always has. That if people wrong him, well then they'll get theirs. Don't you worry, your day will come. It's what he's always said with, you'll get yours in your dreams, you know? Basically saying, I have no way to get back at you, but I'll say a bunch of threatening things to hopefully scare you into submission. It never works, but I'll try it until the very end. And really, interspersed between all the lunacy Chris was talking about today is all the other lunacy with the religious stuff. I don't even know how to touch on that, because it's been so long with Chris just rambling on about it. You'd think at some point he'll fall out of that phase, but he still believes in the Sonichu shit all these years later, so who knows, we'll have to see. But ladies and gentlemen, that's the thing about Chris Chan. Things change all the time and he always says these random things, so we'll have to see what he does next. And until that time, I hope you guys stay safe and you have a good one. I'll always be keeping you guys up to date on the newest stories with Chris and all these crazy locales, and I hope you guys stick around. So until the next time, stay safe, and I'll see y'all then. Have a great rest of your week, guys.